I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. Today is Wednesday, June 1. My. Does the time go fast? I guess they say when you're having fun. I'm having fun. I love doing this. I love talking to people. Uh, I've come to describe myself as a scribe, and scribe comes from my uh, fascination with the work of a Ghanaian novelist. His name is Aikwe Arma. He's living in, I think, a place called I can't think of the name of it right now, but he's not in Ghana now, but he comes from Ghana, and uh, he has a book called uh, Wat Int Shepsh, and the name of that, translated from Egyptian, ancient Egyptian, is the way of companionship. And so I've been trying to delve into the principles that he is introducing me to about an African way of looking at the world, an Afrocentric worldview, a viewpoint that predates our interaction with Europeans, and with Asia and Asians, uh, a viewpoint that tries to seek the indwelling memories of antiquity, uh, a, um, a viewpoint that predates the disintegration of what he calls the way of Ma'at. Ma'at meant a way of looking at the world of creation that's guided with principles of balance and justice. And so I'm knee deep in this exploration of Africanity, of African antiquity, and I'm sort of applying that as I go into the conversations and experiences I'm having. Well, in that regard, it's a pleasure to be with you. I have for my listeners and viewers, I want to invite you to share this program with your friends, your networks. We do this every day at 1 o'clock, and Wednesday is the day that I have a general theme about business and wealth creation, economy. And my guest today will talk to various aspects of that. I want to begin by introducing a good friend whose mom and dad I know and knew and cherished, Adero Cobb. She's the chief operations officer of a community service organization called Keystone Community Services. Also here is Tani Boting, a new friend that I feel like I've known for a long time, though I met her 5 minutes ago. And she is the co-owner of United People Apparel. And she and her husband have created this company, and they're doing brand and fashion and design work for the market locally, but also globally. Hope to be joined as well by our friend Anika Robbins, but we'll see if that happens over the course of the hour. I want to say that the conversation with Adero is the first of a series that we're going to be doing with agencies that are affiliated and supported by Greater Twin Cities United Way. In the way of disclosure, I am a director of the Greater Twin Cities United Way. I serve on the board of directors as the vice chair of the board. And I also do marketing work for them through my company, McFarlane Media, that tries to connect them with audiences of Black, Asian, Latino, Native American communities. And one of the things that came out of that series of discussions I've had with them is that, you know what, I've got a powerful platform in Conversations with Al McFarlane, also in my newspaper, Inside News, and my social media platforms, and also in my relationships with owners of Black and Asian and Latino and Native American media. And I also said to them, the United Way, we are doing phenomenal work in engaging and supporting, empowering solution makers, solution providers in our community. And I propose that we work together in collaboration to bring forth the stories, the people of those who are on the front line in communities, helping people live better lives, more fulfilled lives, move towards individual self-realization, and therefore the building of community. So in that regard, I have invited Adero Rise to Cobb to be the first in a series of organizations that are partnering with Greater Twin Cities United Way. And the idea, Adero, is just to bring you on board here and have you say hello and tell people who you are and what you do. And I'll do what Al McFarlane does, and that's ask wonderful questions that you'll enjoy responding to. So, Adero, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. And it's good to be that first representing the partners that work with United Way. And I would love to tell you more about Keystone Community Services. We have been in the community for 83 years. And, initially we actually started with a grant back in 1939 when United Way was called the St. Paul Community Chest, and then with the St. Paul Junior League. We got a grant, and that was where we kind of kicked off. What we do is we have most people know us for our food shelf and crisis assistance, our Meals on Wheels programs, and then our after school programs that we have. And so right now it's just really with our Meals on Wheels and especially our food shelves, we're seeing our numbers increase, where we have people that, for the last 6 months, it's been increasing, I would say 30%, it's been increasing 30%. And so what we do is really just, we like to make sure that the individuals and families, we try to improve their quality of life. And so whatever program that we have, that either it's a senior program, it's our food shelf or our crisis assistance after school program, we have quite a few individuals that we're serving in the community. In fact, I would say that in 2021, we served 42,000 individuals. So we definitely have been out here when it comes to, that transition for the pandemic and now this inflation that's happening. Our services are needed even more. And so we find a lot more individuals coming into our program.
Tell about the locations. Where do people get your services? Where are you located?
We are located in St. Paul. We serve all of Ramsey County. However, we do have individuals outside of that parameter coming into our food shelf. Again, we have a few locations that are our youth programs. And so, but what most people know is we have a food shelf that's on Rice Street. And then we have one that is on University Avenue. And that is where the most individuals are going, unless you're going specific to our youth programs. But we serve Ramsey County and in St. Paul greater area.
What's been the impact of the pandemic on the services in general, on food availability in particular? What have you found?
Wow. That's huge. I mean, first, we started off in the pandemic phase where individuals, were actually, being laid off. If they had a second job, first job, most individuals used to come to our food shelf on average about 3 times a year. That's on average. And, what we found that our numbers have skyrocketed. People are coming in because, that part-time job when they were working in the restaurant, that has gone, and now they need more services. When you're talking about the inflation now, that utilities and gas and food are going up. Like I said, our numbers have increased 30% in the last 6 months, but so the need is there. We have found that we have been we've had to add more deliveries to our food shelves because, by the end of the night, our shelves were getting bare. Because we had that many families coming every day. And so we needed to work with our partners. But the thing is our food is, with this inflation, the food is costing us more to service the community. And so, we're still out there with our sleeves rolled up, and we haven't stopped. We just have now transitioned from the pandemic to what we're seeing more of the inflation increase. And so that is really affecting us.
Tell me, how do food shelves work? What's the philosophy? What are the mechanics? I mean, how does that come into being? And how do you work with food producers and aggregate, getting stuff to a place and then getting out to people that need it, that can't afford to buy it in a grocery store or places
Absolutely.
like that?
And you know what? Let me expand on that before I get into that. Is that not only do we have our food shelves, we have our food mobiles. So we
Mm,
also partner with agencies outside, apartment buildings, things like that, wherever that's need. We also with the pandemic, we ramped up our services as far as our food mobile, and then we also found that the need was so great that we have had distributions, and we're going to different areas. Like last week, we were at Allianz Field in St. Paul, and we were partner with Minnesota United and Allianz Life, and we were able to serve over 520 families in that. So we're finding different creative ways to get the food there. So how can someone get our services? A lot of times, if you're on as I can see here on our website, you
mhm.
can see where the food mobile is going. We also have what we call a grocery delivery program, and that is something that we started during the pandemic. It was a part of our strategic plan, but once the pandemic hit it, everything accelerated really fast, and we needed to move fast. And the community was telling us that what they needed was more food, so we started that grocery delivery program. So there's different ways. So the grocery delivery program, you have to be 60 and have a disability, and we will actually bring the food that you would get at the food shelf. We'd bring it to your home. Then you have individuals who come to our food shelf. You just kind of walk in, you have a little bit of information that you have to provide, and then you're able to come once a month to get food. And then you have 2 emergencies. So people can come up to 14 times a year to get that. However, we added the distributions because we knew that wasn't enough. So that even we lowered the barriers for that. For that information, we're just asking your first name, and we give you a time slot, and you roll right in. And we've had food distributions that have served 700 families, and this past one was 500. And so so there's multiple ways that you can get food from us. So it's either going straight to the food shelf, and we just went back into in person because right when the pandemic started, we had to completely switch the way that we did our services. People had to come in before people came in and they had to pick their selections. We had to move our motto and change it so that we were pre-packaging. We would still ask some questions, but we still, because there's so many people that could be in a building, we had the social distance, the mask, and all of that. We had to switch that, but we just went back to in person, which is nice because people can come in and there's cultural specific foods they can pick out if they're vegetarian or if they're not, whatever it is that their need is, they can come in and pick those things out.
So where do you get the food from? That's the part I was asking. What's the
Okay.
business of the food shelf?
The
How does it
business,
work?
so we partner Minnesota Food Group. We work with Second Harvest. We order
Mhm,
food for from Second Harvest. So we tell people and we have individuals that donate a lot.
mhm.
So, I can tell you here at the main office, right when the pandemic hit, we had to turn our auditorium into a food shelf, extra food storage, because the community came in big numbers and we're donating food. So once we get the donated food, we can then tell what it is that we need to order. And we use the food group, or we use the Second Harvest to purchase that. Us going
Do you
through like
purchase at a
second
discount? Do you get
at a
volume deals?
significant,
Is that how it
yes.
works? Okay.
Yeah, so it's at a significant discount. So that's what we tell individuals, like $1 for us, or for someone that to go to the grocery store, we could take that dollar and probably get 2 or 3 times the items.
Ah,
I don't have those percentages right in front of me, but it's a
sure.
big, significant difference, and the food goes a long way. But I can tell you that the food for that like Second Harvest is getting, that's costing a lot more money. And then again,
Mm,
now that cost has been put on us to add that. And again, like I said, our numbers are going up so high that we had to add more distributions recently, or more deliveries, so that because we were finding at the end of the day our shelves would be packed, and at the end of the day they would get bare. And so in and out. We have a lot of community individuals who have gardens and things like that. So this is that season, but we have a lot of gardeners that come and bring that fresh produce to
amazing.
us. Hmm.
Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. Let me ask you, pivot a little bit and ask you about how long you've been with Keystone Community Services. And I know you as an entrepreneur, as a
Hmm.
coach, as a counselor, and we've got a history.
We
working
do.
in the fitness space. And as I mentioned before, your dad was a great friend of mine, and your mom is a great friend of mine. So your family is dear to me, like family. So I almost see you as one of my nieces or, close family members. But tell people
Yes.
about you, about Adero.
So about me, like I say, when I first got to Keystone, I really my first introduction with Keystone has been that my kids were a part of their youth programs. So it started with my daughter maybe about 15 years ago. She went through all of their programs, and then at one point she got to a place where she was old. She aged out, and then they hired her as an office manager, and so she really had did that for a couple of years before she went off to college. And my son was a part of. We also have our youth program. We have Express Bike, and that so he was a part of that program where we have apprenticeships coming, and they figure out how to use tools and how to they learn a skill, but they also learn how to be an employee, be accountable and responsible. So my kids had been a part of this program, and Mary McEwen, who is our CEO, our president and CEO, she happened to see me in a news article or in a magazine. And my daughter and I look a lot alike, and she was used to my daughter, and so she had asked someone, hey, is that her sister, is that who is that? And they're like, no, that's Rosalind's mom.
Mhm.
And so she saw my information, and she reached out to me and said, hey, would you be interested in being on our board? And so that was about 5 years ago. And I was like, absolutely. I see what you've done with my kids. I've seen how they were able to grow and flourish once they left home and they went there. So I went through the process, the nominating committee, and I, became a part of the board. I was sat on the board here at Keystone for it's been 5 years now. I just got off because of as I move into COO position, but I was in this position for 2 years, and a position came open as a director of human resources and operations, and so I applied for that, got the position. So and then I've just been promoted now to chief operating officer as of in September. So, I know me more of that, that entrepreneurial spirit, a lot of it,
Mhm.
individuals know my father who ran his business and things like that. That's still a part of me, being that certified life coach and everything that's outside of the organization. But Keystone, I came a part of Keystone because of what we're doing for the community, how it impacted my family. And, every day when I come to work, it's like roll up your sleeves. And it's never been a day like, oh my goodness, I got to go to work. It's like, wow, what do I get to do today? Who do I get to help today? And every day is really meaningful and very purposeful about what we're doing. And so that's just kind of how that transition of how I came about Keystone and how I've been here. And it's been an amazing experience to see how our organization has gotten through a lot of the things. Well, I mean, we've been in business for 83 years, but this pandemic threw everyone. And so, it was nice to see how we came as a team, and we still continue to support the community.
Here's a big question. Maybe it's a tough question, but uh, though you've only been there 5 years, what's your sense of how philanthropy and social service has changed in the 83-year history of that organization? And
Mhm.
if not that organization, of that arena of serving community? Here's what's behind the question. I think that everything is changing now because of George Floyd and because of
Mhm.
pandemic. I think that there was a world 2 generations ago where everything was kind of like we saw it on TV, Ozzie and Harriet, Leave It to Beaver, uh, June and Ward Cleaver, all of those iconic images of a stable, in my view, white life that we were not really included in. We meaning African people, African Americans. We were around it, in it, but not of it, and not
Mhm.
that we didn't want to, because some of the stated goals of quality of life are universal, and we could identify with wanting to have a stable, household and education opportunities and good jobs. But our reality was that there were structural barriers all
Mhm.
along the way. And our entire existence in this country, actually in the Western Hemisphere, has had to do with the struggle towards freedom, the struggle for liberation from the condition of enslavement that Africans experienced when they arrived, and to the ending of slavery, the legal ending of slave trade, to and through Jim Crow, to and through segregation, to where we are today. And today we're at the phase of that struggle that is reflected in the public uprising and angst at the treatment of George Floyd and all the others like him, and the potential for that treatment to continue unless we resist. And what is apparent now, what is long-winded, I apologize. What is apparent now is that we continue as a people to operate with a sense of righteous indignation and with resistance to oppressive and structural disadvantage. So, having said that, how do organizations that were mainstays in the middle of an emerging culture pivot to be more inclusive and to reflect the reality of today's demographics? Is that a fair question or not? I don't know. It might not be a fair question. I'm just thinking out loud, but I'll throw it out.
It is a fair question. And when you think about like 83 years ago, you think, hey, maybe that wasn't necessarily for us in our community, right? What Keystone is widely aware of is just that we know that in the past, this organization was white-led and serving the community, and the community demographics has changed over time, right? And I will say that in the last 5 years, with Mary McEwen, the president CEO that is now, being very intentional about like seeking out, making sure that our board, bringing me on the board and bringing other individuals and starting to diversify our board to represent what our community looks like and the individuals that we serve. I will say that we serve 77% of the individuals we serve are from the BIPOC community. And so we do know that Keystone had, some transitioning and some things to strive towards, to make sure that the board and our senior leadership and our employees reflect the community that we're serving. So we've been I hear what you're saying. We've been very intentional about making that transition, and we're knowing that that is the direction, and that's the direction that we're serving. So we, the beauty thing is that when we work with our strategic plan and things like that, we actually go out to the community, and like the last time was like 700 individuals that we reached out to. What is it that we do well? What is it that you need to see? When you're talking about philanthropy, with the uprising and things like that, you find that individuals are now saying, hey, is it a BIPOC-led, BIPOC completely focused organization? And we're finding that is organizations. And yes, have we been left out of some grants and things like that because we're not 100%? We don't right now say, hey, that is just our only focus, even though 77% of the individuals we serve are from the BIPOC community. But, bringing on more individuals from the community, we definitely, I would say Keystone has made great strides to have the organization reflect what are the community that we serve.
Great. Let me draw in the conversation and bring in the next guest and hang out with me here as long as you can. Adero, Tani Boateng is a co-owner of United People Apparel. And as I mentioned before at the beginning of the show, when I met her moments ago, I discovered that she's from Kingston. I'm a Jamaican from St. Mary in Jamaica, a Cuban Jamaican. My father born in Cuba, but my father's father born in St. Anne, and then grew up in St. Mary. And that her husband and business partner is from Ghana. And I told her how much I love Ghana, because I've been there a few times. So I'm so pleased to have this conversation. Connie, so pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
If you would, talk about United People Apparel. What's the vision? What's the idea? And if you have a website, maybe you can share it and talk about, walk people through your website.
Sure. Well, as he says, my name is Tani Boateng.
Tani, okay.
No, it's okay. Tani Boateng with United People Apparel. My husband, Emmanuel, and I started this company in 2017. We have two brands, actually. A Handful is the first brand that was started back in 2017, and United People Apparel was created in 2020. But our brands are just all about bringing people together and just celebrating families and cultures and different ethnic groups here in the U.S. It's somewhat celebrating the United States through our eyes as immigrants. And so our brand is just filled with different apparels and um, handmade jewelries and handmade things, I guess, from Africa itself. And so we're just here just to celebrate life. That's what we're here to do at United People Apparel. And just honoring families and cultures from around the world that makes up this country that's called the United States. So
Hmm. Hmm. And so, what does that mean for you and your husband, both as immigrants? You were not born here, right? You were born in Kingston.
right. I was born in Kingston, Jamaica back in the 80s. I'm an
Okay.
80s baby, 1988. And my husband was born in Kumasi, Ghana. And we both migrated here with our families at around the elementary school ages. And so we somewhat experienced or grew up in this country, as people would say. But in all, in growing up, we never forgot where we came from,
Mhm.
and we carried that along with us through every day in this country. And so just being able to have the opportunity to see um, where we were and where we came from, and now that we're here, and how this country called the United States is it's more of like a salad bowl as opposed to a melting pot.
Mhm.
Salad
Mhm.
bowl in the sense where like you can taste the lettuce, you can taste the tomatoes, you can taste it, and all these different cultures are just highlighted and celebrated. And so we're just here to just do that with our brand. So
Being an entrepreneur, how did that come to you? What's your approach to what drew you into entrepreneurship?
I think what drew us into entrepreneurship, it was more than just an idea or thought or it's, oh, I just want to be something or do something. It was more of like a passion. Growing up in this country, we were somewhat taught to um, you know do this or do that, or um, let me see if I can rewind. Actually, I think for me personally, the reason why I wanted to become an entrepreneur is because of how I was raised. In Jamaica, I'm not quite sure if you remember, but our motto is "Out of many, we're one people."
Yes.
So this drive of entrepreneurship is just to celebrate um, our diversity, but in the same time celebrating the fact that we're all human beings.
Hmm.
And so my husband, for him, it was more of what he was taught and his passion and his family and his culture and just his livelihood for life is what kind of drove him into entrepreneurship. And between what I have and what he has, United People Apparel was born. And so again, we're just wanting, our brand was just created just to celebrate, just to highlight those different cultures here in the US, that what makes up the United States. When you think of the United States, you just don't think of one people, you think of so many different people trying to come together to make this country great. So
So, when you are either of you or both of you from entrepreneurial families? Is there something that goes back more than one generation?
actually, we sat down and thought about thought about it, but I we can't really figure out where it came from. I think it was just birth in us. I don't know. I we tried. We literally. I mean, the only thing I can really think of is just my parents always thought, just always drove into me that you can do, they always want us to do better than what they have done. And so what we did was, I guess, set back and just analyze what our parents, what our grandparents and stuff, and how can we be a blessing, not just to them, but to the future generations that will be birthed from us. So I think what kind of birthed the spirit of entrepreneurship is just going through what we went through in our childhood, coming here to the US, experiencing what we experienced, and then just wanting to make that change, being the change that we want to see. So that's what kind of birthed that entrepreneurial spirit.
I think that's you, right?
That's me.
I got your website up. I'm going to have you go through it. I'm going to let it flow automatically first, and then we'll talk, and then I'm going to stop it or come through it another way, and you can talk about different. I love that. That's number one. That's awesome. Those are the royal stools in that picture of
That's my
the
baby.
family. Have you been to Ghana, and has your husband been to Jamaica?
He has not yet had the privilege to go. We were supposed to go back in 2020, but 1 week prior to our departure, everything shut down. So that was very, that wasn't, but we're planning right now to make to go to just travel there together. But I can't wait to experience Ghana, to be honest. I can't. But I hear it's just like Jamaica. So I know I will feel right at home. So
It's absolutely just like Jamaica. So let me tell you a story then. To get then I'll get your appetite uh, primed for Ghana and his for Jamaica. So my wife is from a small town called Crystal Springs, Mississippi. Crystal Springs is 20 miles south of Jackson. And when I went there to meet her family and hang out with them, I sat on her big sister's porch in a little cul-de-sac in this small town. I mean, town's like 5,000 people, so it's really small. And across the road from where we were sitting was a hen house, a chicken coop. And it's kind of neighborhood where while we're sitting there, a couple of generations of folks sitting around having a beer, just talking. It's in the summertime when it's hot, you're sitting outdoors, you have a fan on the porch to move the air, outdoors air. That's how hot it is, right? And so, but sit there and you talk. People might drive by, you wave, hey, how you doing? Everybody talks. So it's idyllic. And kind of place where I just one little story, a big ruckus in the hen house, and somebody said there's a snake in the hen house, right? So one of Bobby's nephews from 2 doors down the street came out with a shotgun, walked calmly across the street, kaboom, killed the snake, walked calmly back home. And that was that. That was the excitement for the afternoon. But that's the kind of neighborhood it is, right? And so in that small town, it's like every kind of character is there. There is the smart aleck. There's the devout, pious person. There's the super Christian, always quoting the Bible. And there's the guy that probably likes to shoot craps on the weekend. There are people that go to the juke joint and people that just work hard, and some people that are laying the cut trying to figure out who they can figure out, and get past. So all those personalities are there. So I sat there and said, Bobby, this reminds me so much of Dresiki, Mild Gully in Jamaica, because at my father's farm community in the mountains of above Ocho Rios, exact same characters, different names, same people, same energy, the same story. And then I get to Ghana and I say, check this out. Isn't the world a wonderful place? Because they're the same people. Every personality, every iconic position has to be filled. We're the same people
yes,
all over the world.
same through and through.
Same story, one story out of many, one. You said it.
Yes,
And that really is a global statement,
it
And
is.
so when you get to one of my favorite stories in Ghana was how people are connected intuitively in ways that are helping, sharing.
Mhm.
So I was standing on a corner with in Kumasi, and I was in maybe, could have been Accra, I'm not sure where it was. Me and the guy that I went with was from here, but he's a Ghanaian guy, a Fanti guy. And we were at a stoplight, so it was Accra. A woman walked up with a tray on her head and had a quarter of a cow or something,
Yes.
of an animal on her head. She was carrying from somewhere to somewhere. But she got to the corner. It was obvious that this was heavy and she had to wait. And without saying a word, I saw her look at him. He looked at her. He lifted his hands, pulled the item down, set it on the ground, and she rested for the 90 seconds that the light was red.
Oh,
Light changed. He and she lifted it up, back on her head. She went on her way. I said, did I just see that?
Wow.
That's a way of knowing
yes.
who we are to each other and for each other. And it was absolutely beautiful. And I saw it again and again and again and again. And so that tells me, Tanny, that we're the same everywhere. And I tell my wife when she finally gets to go to Africa with me, it'll be just like being in Crystal Springs. So she found that to be true when she went to Jamaica for the first time. Same people everywhere. It's a wonderful thing. So I hope you get to go. But I also love the fact that you guys are entrepreneurs. And I want to, and Adero will attest to this, and Adero will jump in the conversation. What is it about us that we see that in this generation is calling us to not only be productive in whatever we do, but also to be entrepreneurial at the same time? What do you think? And there's no right or wrong answer. Just what do you feel?
Right.
Daryl will jump
You
in.
know,
Brent will jump in as well.
well, for me personally, as you know, my father had his business, electrical contracting for over 30 years. And so, I mean, I was raised with that. Most people know that I have my personal business, but I have my career that I do during the day. But that entrepreneur spirit is just being able to, take some of your passion and be able to, bring it to the community. That's something that you own and brand and cultivate yourself. And so, I mean, I think that's why, I have, my entrepreneurs that, as you know, and I think you know me more of that life coach that's outside of the organization and other things that I've done and do. But I just think it's just because it's something that we own. And for me, it's important that I show my kids
Mm-hmm.
that way. And yes, you can have your career, but you also need to make sure that I want my kids to be better than me, and I want to be able to leave this business as a legacy for them. And so, and that's what I do. You lead by example. And so my kids have been following me and watching what I've done. And so, that's why I still dabble in that entrepreneur. For one, it's in my blood, and for two, I want to lead by example, and I want to leave a legacy for my kids.
That's
Jenny,
exactly
what do you
it.
think?
I think she hit it right on the head, especially with her being a parent and wanting, better. I think again, that's what my parents, because my dad came here on farm work back in the early 90s, and that was his introduction to the U.S. So he, you know, coming here and again experiencing that, and then once everything was stable, then he filed for my sister and I to come here from Jamaica. And every day he worked, my dad worked 3 jobs, and every day when he would come home, he would say, I want better for you, make sure you grab the education, you don't follow what other kids are doing. You came here, get your education. You know how Jamaican parents can be. But
Yeah,
when
yeah.
he said it, so some people, it may seem like, oh, he's rough or he's being, mean, but no, like he really didn't want us to go through the same thing that he went through. He always wanted better. And so we just grabbed onto it, and, we just ran with it, and we didn't know what door was going to be open, but it landed us here at the Mall of America. And, we're just going to continue. Then I pray when we have our kids that they'll bring it further. Maybe they'll end up somewhere else, with this. But it's always, as Miss Adero said, is just that passion. And I feel like for so long, our visions and our entrepreneurial spirit still was silent. And through the recent events throughout the years, it's somewhat awakened, as if someone turned on the boiling hot when we're just spilling over. We're spilling over. It's like we can't contain it anymore. We can't remain silent anymore. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's sometimes I just sit here and cry, like, my goodness, like 10 years ago, like this wasn't happening. And then 10 years later, there's like a bunch of people here like, yay, we're doing it. We're doing it.
You're at the
We're
Mall of
really
America.
doing it.
Let me do this. Let me walk through your website. I'm going to bring it back up and have you kind of share with people what you guys
Would
are
you like
doing and
me
what's
to
in your
share?
website.
Or
So let me here bring it up again. And I
yes,
wanted
if
to go back to the beginning of it, though. Let's go back a couple of
the home screen.
to
Yeah.
the home screen. Okay. And then we
Mhm.
can walk through it. And so quality, fit, style, the brand that unites. Tell me about that again.
So that's just, we house both of our brands, a handful, and in my husband's language. So a handful again was the first brand that was created back in 2017, and that brand was created to um, encourage us to all live nobly. In my husband's language, he was born into the Ashanti tribe in Ghana. In their language, a handful means royalty, means kingship.
Is
So
he a
that
royal?
brand,
Is your husband a royal?
his on his father's side.
Okay.
There you have some kind of connection.
Okay. Okay.
But
Okay.
but it was just created just to encourage all of us to have noble living, but more so to serve as a constant reminder that we should never ever settle for less in life because we descended from greatness. So that's what a handful is all about.
Let me show you this and just and have you come back. I just
Okay.
finished reading this book. It's called The Healers, and it's by
Ooh.
Aikwe Arma, a Ghanaian, as I said, who now lives in, I think, Senegal, West Africa. But this is all about Ashanti and the Ashanti wars with the British and the
Yes.
Ashanti Fanti wars as well. So
Mhm.
fascinating reading. I just finished reading it last night, and it's a great story. So get a chance to read it if you can. So let me go to the next screen. Ahinfo and UPA gives back, and that's your.
Yes. So if you click here to learn more.
Uh-huh.
So we created, it's a newly formed nonprofit organization for a handful that's called Urban Pillars. And so Urban Pillars, if you scroll down, Urban Pillars was created um, to, in a sense where we're going to be partnering with local community leaders, philanthropists here in the Twin Cities and around the world, just to give back in a sense. We we first partnered with the Love Foundation Club, which is an organization in Ghana that was started by a 16-year-old called Marcus. He's now 23, I believe. But they go, it's pretty much a youth-driven mission work. And so they go throughout Africa and they provide school supplies, shoes, books, and everything for people in need. So, yeah. So it's pretty much housed in two brands under one site.
Explain this. I love it so much, but royalty fit style. What's going on here?
So that is for the Ahenfo brand. So if you want to shop the Ahenfo apparel, then you can click shop now and it will bring you there. But again, the Ahenfo brand is just all about awakening the greatness within all of us so that we'll be able to express it royally.
What's the significance of these tools?
So the significance of the stool is actually a real item. And this is the, how do you say, more of like the iconic symbol for the Ahenfo, apart from the logo. The golden stool is actually a real item that is currently has been in the Ashanti Kingdom for, I think, even beyond years. And so the significance of this stool is to reinforce the Ahenfo. There was a war that broke out in the 1900s over this particular item. It's made out of pure gold, and only the Ashanti, only the king, I would say, is allowed to sit on it. And back in the 1900s, when Britain learned of this stool, they actually invaded Ghana, wanting that stool. And one of their generals wanted to sit on the stool, but the queen at the time, her name was Nanaya Asantwa. She told him, if you sit on this, you're disrespecting our people because only the king is allowed to sit on it. And let's just say the general did not like that answer, and a war broke out over the stool. And you can find that in our history. It's called the War of the Golden Stool. So we always bring it back just to reiterate the Ahenfo.
It's a fascinating story. It's a great story. And this is your team, you and your husband, right?
We're a dynamic duo.
Great image, great image. And you guys look determined.
We are. We truly,
Yeah. I mean,
we
it just
truly are.
jumps out at you. So it's a wonderful
Mhm.
thing. It's great.
And it's a day by day experience. You know, we've just celebrated our 1 year anniversary here in the mall, and it's a constant learning experience for us. I remember our third week of being open here. I had a woman that entered the store, and I normally introduce myself to everyone that comes into the store and just to welcome them. And she picked up a shirt that she really liked, and the moment I introduced myself to her and told her that my husband and I were the owner and designers here, we just wanted to welcome her, she literally dropped the shirt on the floor, and then she walked out the store. And when she hit the threshold, she was like, she turned back and she looked at me and said, you don't have the right to own a store here in the Mall of America, and I need to know my place. And I was like, did we not
Whoa.
learn anything from 2020? What is going on?
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, I said, and that just reinforced my husband. When I told my husband, first thing he says, like, that's why we're there. That is why we're there. And so we'll continue to spread love and unity and just try to celebrate this great country that's filled with so many beautiful people. So, yeah.
Wow, amazing. Now, I know the story, and all of us have stories like that. I think Brenda and Adero, it's common, far too common. It never goes away. But, we have this phenomenal resilience. And
We do. It's beautiful.
yeah. Brenda, any thoughts? Are you muted, Brenda? I'm not hearing you. Let's see. I was asking you, Brenda, do you have any, you're muted, Brenda. Or Adero, any thoughts or feelings?
Just about, you're right. We all have those stories. And, the fact that, I'm glad that that person had an opportunity to meet you. I'm sure she won't forget you. And sorry you had to go through that, but you know what, but we persevere and we have to, because we're going to get knocked down, and there's going to individuals that tell us that we don't belong or we shouldn't be here. And all of those things throughout our journey, and you just continue to say I belong, and you just driving through it, and just think about the ones and the ancestors that were stepping on the backs of their shoulders that lifted us up, and we're lifting up, and watch the young ones that are watching us and how we handle that. You handle, yeah. I know all too well. I've had my experiences over the years, so I know exactly what you're referring to and talking about.
Bobby and I have this, Bobby, my wife, and I we've written about, title of the story is Looking for a Friendly Face. And and she in particular being more sensitive than I, we've gone into stores, and she'll go extra few minutes to try to find and read a face that is not going to be antagonistic towards her for shopping. And the terrible thing is, we come to the store, we have money, we want to spend, we want to buy, and then we run across white people who are working, and they make their money by the purchases of customers who somehow are resentful that we are in their store buying. And it's the same thing that person who was refusing to buy from you. The other side of that is when they're working, they, even despite themselves, by putting out a negative energy. So yeah. And so one of the things again about Jamaica and about Ghana, Tani and Adero and Brenda, is that when you go there, for Black people, it's a good feeling to not be in a minority. Good feeling to be where you look this way, you look that way, you look up the street, down the street, and all you see is people who look just like you, and they're doing what you're doing. And if you're uncomfortable at first, you have to learn to just keep your mouth shut. As long as you don't say anything, nobody's going to know where you're from, right? And so you'll be like everybody else. But the minute you open your mouth, you'll reveal what your experience has been. I got a Kansas City story, Brenda, when my brothers and sisters moved back to Kansas City from Worthington, where southern Minnesota, where my dad's job moved us in 65, I think. And they lived there like 10 years to 75 until they opened the packing house plant back up, and he moved back to Kansas City. They went from a rural white school back into our neighborhood in Kansas City, Brenda. And they told me that they were in a hallway, and they said, somebody said something to them, and they said, "Hi, how are you guys?" And once they said that, everybody stopped and looked at them, and they knew that they didn't belong there. That's not how we talk, right? So they said, "Empty your pockets, boy." That's funny. It's a joke. But that's all about colloquial and identity and language and familiarity and stuff like that. It's funny now. But there's joy in being around our people, wherever we are, and not having to be questioned about being a part of that fabric anyway. So I want somebody to connect with your business today, Tani. So make an invitation. Tell people to come see you, how to call you, how to reach you. Just I'm hoping that somebody gets excited and takes a trip out to the mall or goes online and spends a whole bunch of money with you.
Well, we are located here in the Mall of America. I like to say on Nordstrom's side because there's so many
Mhm.
different sides to this place. But we're on the west side of the mall, on the third floor, Suite W368. You can give us a call, and our store number is 612-457-7000, and our email address is info at ahenfowear.com. And so, yeah, we're just excited just to connect with people. I love talking to people. We actually had this map. I don't know if you can see this map above my head,
Yes.
installed here in our store, and it's we just celebrate we call them UPA fams around the world. And right now we have families in 22 different countries
Oh,
and
amazing.
43 different states. So I'm afraid of heights. So my husband has been going up and just pinpointing them. So as they come into the store, they'll see that, they already have families there. So it's just been beautiful. Being here in the mall has been a blessing. And yeah, we just stop on by. I'm here pretty much every day. And yeah, let's let's connect.
Yes. Well, I will be out to visit.
And Brenda, when you come to Minnesota, you can come visit too. Brenda's in New Mexico.
Oh
So yeah,
wow.
and so it hasn't been to Minnesota yet, but someday she'll make it up here. And
Mhm.
she got a lot of new friends because she's been doing this with me for about a year or two
Wow.
almost, every week, right? And so she knows a lot
Wait,
of
wait till the
people in
summertime, Brenda.
two
Wait till the
years.
summer.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, listen, I've enjoyed this hour. This has been a great conversation. Thank you both for being here. Thank you for what you do. Adero, thank you for your leadership and for the phenomenal service and work of the Keystone Community Services, for the visionary leadership and the commitment to serving. I thank you too. I mentioned to you earlier that I didn't know the number of people, but you told me 85 people
Yes.
That's
working.
amazing.
And so take the last few minutes to talk about what it means to pull together that many people on a
Wow.
mission, and what is the internal benefit? Because I think that all those people that have jobs are
Mhm.
growing and benefiting, feeding families and paying mortgages and paying car notes and sending kids to college, and paying taxes. And so you are not only addressing the problem, but in the addressing of the problem, you're reflecting how problems are solved in the lives of the people that you've assembled to be
Mhm.
part of the solution. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And like so you said, we have roughly 85 employees, and we have about 2,000 volunteers
Wow.
that makes this all work. As far as like it's we have our senior programs and our food shelf and crisis assistance and our youth programs. And so that it takes all of us. I think we all are here. With this being a nonprofit, we're all here on purpose. We're all here wanting to give back to the community, and that's what really energizes us here. And the exciting part is that we're growing so much that we are like bursting at the seams at the two food shelves that we have. That we have just purchased another bigger building on University, and we're going to redevelop that and revamp that corner. And the beauty about being in this position, I don't know if you know James Garrett. He is Formula, an
I
architect.
do. I do.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so
James.
in this process, we brought on James Garrett and his team with Formula, and they have helped redesign our new food shelf so that we can, serve even more individuals. Like I said, we had 42,000 we served last year. Once we get into this building, we expect to move up to even higher, more than 50,000 and even more. People say once we renovate a space or do a space, that even more people that we anticipate, because we're changing that corner, and people are finding out more and more about us. So that's the beauty of it, is being able to work with the employees, work with the volunteers, and we all really are here with purpose. So that's what's next for us, is getting into this new site, and in how that works, getting in that funding, and once we get there, we'll be able to, like I said, serve so many more individuals. We'll call it it's going to be more of a community site, so that we've already have individuals. We haven't even opened yet, and we have individuals wanting to use that space for different things, programs. Whether it's tax or finance or whatever it is, the community sees what we're doing, and they're really coming in. So that's what excited for us, is that we continue to grow as far as employees, and it takes our volunteers as well. So, I call anyone, we always can use volunteers, whether it's, driving Meals on Wheels to the seniors. That is so important, because a lot of those individuals live alone. And so this is an opportunity to touch someone, so there's a variety, whether you want to read to kids, there's our community, or there's the youth programs. And so I invite people to want to come in and become volunteers. But I'm very proud to work here. I see what a big difference we're working in the community. And right now, there is just a growing need for food. And when we're seeing that there's so many individuals that need food. And so the hard part is we hit that blow last week when the legislature, they didn't come to an agreement. And so when the state doesn't come to an agreement, it's not them. They hurt us. They're hurting the individuals, whether it's education, human services, or things like that, so we're seeing that great demand. So we're insisting right now that they go back to special session to get that money out, that $9 billion that is sitting there as a surplus. We're telling them to get back to work, so that because we see that, we see the discrepancies that families have, and as a leader, what's important for me is to be, I'm everywhere in the organization. I've been everywhere. And I love working at the food shelf and connecting with the people that are coming in. It reminds me of, everybody's had a hard time, and, looking at individuals saying, hey, come here, and they're treated with such grace and dignity, and just watching, it's just like, it's just a purpose. I feel like I'm so in purpose doing this job, and that the food with this inflation, it's only going up. It's only going up, and we are definitely feeling that impact. So we're right on target as far as trying to open up this new building. We have it, James Garrett and his team Formula has redesigned it.
And James Garrett.
Huh?
Shout out to James Garrett.
Shout out to, and it's so great to work with people in the, the community, like him and I, born and raised in St. Paul, right? And this is our community. And, Charlene Bradley, who just joined our board, and, is from the community, and, and it's just like, it almost feels like a little bit sometimes, not a high school reunion, but you're able to see, individuals that you've grown up with in the community making a difference. And whether his is design and art, whether mine is working in human services, making sure that people get the food, the services, the, crisis assistance, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. Our crisis assistance lines are ringing off the hooks right now. People are needing more assistance with housing. They're needing more assistance if the crier breaks down, somebody gets a new job and they need steel toe boots and they can't afford them, that they can try to apply for that, and we can help assist. So there's so many ways, different reasons why we help individuals. But you leave, I can honestly tell you, I leave work feeling like I have done something great that day. And the work needs to be done. And, as you said, like right in that pandemic, we're like those workers. All my friends are all going back. They're hybrid or they work from home. I haven't left the office. I've been here. I never worked from home. It was, we still have the food shelf to run. We still have everything, all the operations, and, we're here. And so, for those that are not familiar with Keystone, look us up. We can always use volunteers. I'm proud to say that we have that 85 individuals that we, love, teeters 85 to 87, 83, sure. But, it definitely feels great to walk in purpose.
And I'm sure you can also use donations. If people
yes.
want to give money, they can do it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So yes, if you want to give a donation, go online. We make it very easy for you. Whether it's monetary, whether it's food, and you want to do that, you're welcome. It'll show you online where to go to drop off food. Sometimes we'll have special donations. Diapers, people can't afford that right now. Formula, so we don't have it all the time, but we try to have those things. So if you want to donate those things, that would be great too.
Adero, Riser, Cobb, Keystone Community Services, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Tanny Boateng, United People Apparel, thank you so much. Great to have this conversation with you. As always, Brenda Lyle, we've got great guests and great stories to tell. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.